we just love our phones. They're fun. We get to have lots of contact with the world. We can see anything. We can play games. The possibilities are endless. I remember the first time I got a smartphone. I was running a company and I was just tied to my computer and at home, and I just felt trapped. And then I got my smartphone, and I remember taking it with me when I went down to Target, and if a message came in, I could answer it. Then I would go somewhere else and I could answer it, and I almost felt like I was playing hooky and thought, oh my goodness, they don't know that I'm wandering around. 2007 was a really important year because that was the year the first iPhone came out. The world just changed, and there was Facebook in our face, and then Instagram, and then TikTok. Everybody had their really good websites with all of their articles, and YouTube really got big on the smartphone, your banking, and really you can run your life from your smartphone. The problem is your smartphone starts to run your life, and a lot of us are starting to feel really uncomfortable about that because we keep it with us, we keep it in our pocket. Sometimes we go to the bathroom and we're looking at it in the bathroom. I know, isn't that silly that we do that? We take it with us on dates, into restaurants, and if we don't have it, we feel naked, like we're just exposed to the world, or even worse, something terrible is going to happen and we won't know about it immediately. If you find that you relate to any of this, it'd be great if you subscribe. Of course, you know, for most of the history of the world, people didn't even expect that they could get hold of you immediately. And when we were using landlines, people would call in, and if they couldn't get you, they'd call back later. Nobody expected that we would be instantly available. But then this changed. And I don't know about you, but my mind started to feel so cluttered, and by the end of the day, just so weighed down. I'd get up in the morning, I'd feel really clear, like I could decide what to do, just kind of relaxed, and through the day, I'd feel more cluttery and stressed, and I wasn't exactly sure why. And then I started to think, what if it's my smartphone? And what if it's the television, that it's just wearing down my brain? And I had read a lot of articles, and I had tried some things like social media fast for 7 days or 2 weeks. And while that helped temporarily, it wasn't long and I was right back to doing the same thing. And check my email, check YouTube Studio, check my email, check YouTube Studio, check Facebook, check this one, check news website. And it would just go around and around and around and around. Of course, my mind would get cluttery. Our mind is just not meant to do that. And then I came across this one called Digital Minimalism, Choosing a Focused Life in a Noisy World. It's a New York Times bestseller, and it's by Cal Newport. And he has quite a method or suggestions to help you with this. And he doesn't suggest that you just go on like a social media fast. He said he's noticed the same thing. You do this fast and it feels really good, then you go right back to it. He really noticed what is causing this and what can we do about it. We're going to go through this book and talk about some of it. This is a book I highly recommend. I don't think this is a book you can blast through, that you have to think about it and start implementing some things and deciding, yeah, this will work for me and this won't work for me, or maybe I'll try this and see how it works out. So I've actually been working on this book for a very long time, months, and wanted to get to a point where I could give you my impressions of what has worked for me, what I thought just really is not something I want to do, and here's some things that I'm still struggling with and I don't know exactly how I'm going to get them taken care of. So he starts out by talking about what's happened on social media. Have you ever heard of the pigeon pecking experiment? Michael Zeller was the scientist who did that, and he gave them the ability to control how much feed they got by pecking, but they controlled how much feed and how often the feed would come out when the pigeon pecked. It was unpredictable. He found that this actually increased their craving and they would peck more. Adam Alter compared what happens on Facebook to this experiment. He said it's hard to exaggerate how much the like button changed the psychology of Facebook Facebook use. Every time you post something on a social media platform, you kind of wonder, are you going to get likes or hearts or retweets, or is it going to be ignored and nobody will like it or participate or watch it? He said that it creates what one Facebook engineer calls bright dings of pseudo pleasure. When you get them, you feel good. If you don't get any attention, you feel bad. Either way, the outcome is hard to predict, which, as the psychology of addiction teaches us, making the whole activity of posting and checking maddening appealing. The thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them, was how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? And that means that we need to give you sort of little dopamine hits every once in a while because someone liked or complimented on a photo or a post. He talks about the second force that creates this social addiction, and it's the drive for social approval. As Adam Elder writes, we're social beings who can't ever completely ignore what other people think of us. If lots of people click the little heart icon under your latest Instagram post, it feels like the tribe is showing you approval, which we're adaptive to strongly crave. The other side of this is that a lack of approval, it affects our lizard brain, and it can develop an urgent need to continue to monitor this vital information, hoping that you will see these hearts or approval markers in the future. Cal says that the power of the drive for social approval should not be underestimated. Who was a product manager on the team of Facebook who created the like button, said that she saw how much havoc it causes in people's lives that she now refuses to check her own Facebook account. She has someone hired that does it because she doesn't want to fall victim to it. Cal says that compulsive use in this context is not the result of a character flaw. It's the result of a massively profitable business plan. I have to tell you, when I read this, I just kind of went, oh my words, this is what's happening to me, because YouTube Studio app, which creators have and you install on your phone, you can do many things in it. See how many people have liked your video or commented on your video or who have subscribed or unsubscribed. You can see almost all of your analytics. You can even manage your videos. You can edit them. You can delete them. You can upload them. They can give you suggestions for videos you need to do. And so that app has become so addictive, and I was compulsively checking it all day long that it was playing with my mental health in such a serious way that I had to take a break from posting, and definitely from the app. I don't think I'll put the app on my phone again. I cannot do that to myself again. It was really, truly affecting me because it's so tempting, especially when a video is new, to just sit and click on it and come back to it to see how many people are watching. If a lot of people are watching it and watching it quickly, then you start to feel good and, oh, I've done something good. But if they're not, you start to feel uneasy, like you failed, like you've offended people. Oh, I'm really not doing well on YouTube. Maybe I should continue this. Maybe I'm wasting my time. And it's all because of that app. I had to come up with a plan for myself. And one of the plans is I only use the website. I never look at the homepage, so I don't see how many subscribers I have. When I go into the back end, I mostly go to the comments page and I have that bookmark. I only go out there once a day because I can't do it more. It was spoiling my YouTube fun. It was making me feel like I'm not doing well enough. It was making me worry too much. And I realized, I just can't do it. For a creator, those things can be just as addictive as what happens on TikTok and Facebook and on Instagram. So then he describes digital minimalism, and it is kind of like minimalism where you're giving things away in your home, but it's not the same. Here's his definition of digital minimalism: a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support the things you value and then happily miss out on everything else. And when he's talking about clutter, he's talking about all of the apps and all of these methods of doing things on your phone where there's literally so much that you can do and takes your attention. And what you want to do, just like when you are decluttering a closet, is get down to what is actually useful to you. Some people go, yeah, it's too much for me, I'm going to go to a dumb phone. Some people will make their smartphone a dumb phone by taking almost everything off, but other people, and this is what I've been working on doing, is noticing which things are really taking too much time and that are messing with my mental health and my sense of worth, because I'm always waiting and hoping for something that may not occur. And then Cal talks about the law of diminishing returns. The law of diminishing returns is when you do something and do more of it, it will improve to a certain point. Then you hit this point in the process where the more you do it, the less returns that you will get back from it. That how you use your technology and how much time you put into it is going to affect how much good you get out of it. When we're carrying around our phone and we're checking it, constantly checking it all day long, we are making it more likely that we are going to enjoy it far less than if we actually have a plan for how we're going to use it. Cal introduces some steps that we can take to get more control of our digital life. So let's go over those. Step 1 is to define your technology rules. He recommends a 30 days of digital declutter where you're going to take a break from all of the optional technologies, like remove your social media apps. And some people go as far as to take their browser off of their phone because they find themselves checking their browser over and over again. I chose not to do that because I do so much looking things up, researching. I do have a habit of going to certain websites, and I've been really working to cut that down. And I'm finding the more I work on it, the less satisfied I am. The more I'm saying to myself, well, that was a waste of time. So I didn't do I'm going to get rid of everything off my phone. I got rid of, for sure, the YouTube Studio app, which I'm not going to put back. I took off Instagram. I didn't take Facebook off because, for one thing, I don't hardly check it. And I have some logins that are attached to that Facebook app. And when I've taken it off before, then it's made my life harder. What I need to do is to go into Facebook back and find out where those logins are, disconnect for them, and set up different logins. But I haven't done that so far. My plan for use actually goes with something he recommends later. But I really have found the less I'm checking certain things that I was checking a lot, the less I check other things. So it's all related to me. He talks about another borderline case is television. And I would say television is really my Achilles heels because I get to a certain point in the day and I am just so physically tired and mentally tired, which is pretty typical for someone with fibromyalgia, that I can't read. I can't do any of the things that I would do otherwise. So I'll just fall into my chair and I'll start watching TV. The problem I have is that I don't have a good enough plan, which is something that you need to do. Come up with a plan for use. And then I start watching a bunch of things that don't matter to me. I don't even enjoy them. I'm just like trying them out and I start to feel yuckier and yuckier. And why am I watching this? And yet I do. I'm just like some drug addict and I just keep going and watching a bunch of stuff. And then before I realize it, it's too late. And what I've been thinking about doing, and I think it's a pretty good plan, is to set a couple of alarms that say like, okay, at 9 o'clock or 9:30, the television goes off and I'm going to read a book. Because a book is far more helpful into going to sleep and having a good night's sleep. So he says, once you've identified the class of technologies that are relevant, the ones that are really causing you problems, you must decide which of them are sufficiently optioned that you can take a break for them for the full 30 days of the declutter process. I had no trouble taking Instagram off my phone. When I took Studio off my phone, I went through kind of wanting to check. I had to take it off all on my phone so that I wouldn't check any of them. And so it's a little harrowing at first. You do feel kind of edgy at first, but that feeling goes away. It's only a temporary removal unless you find, I feel so much better without it. I just don't need that at all. So I I went at least 2 months without Instagram. I put it back on Sunday just to see what it'd be like, and I put a quote in and shared a quote, a scripture. Then I just shut it, and I didn't feel that usual urge to go in and find out how many people had looked at it. A day or two later, I looked at Instagram again. I didn't feel any urge to go see what else anybody has done. Particularly didn't care about what had happened with the post, and I realized, yeah, you know what? Instagram has really lost its appeal, and you're not even enjoying yourself. You ever notice that? You'll just start going like this, and it just plays with your mind because they have engineered it to do that. And he said, while you're deciding which apps that you are going to put on your phone, don't confuse convenient with critical. His final suggestion with that is to use operating procedures when confronting a technology that's largely optional, with the exception of a few critical cases. This allows you to determine exactly how and when you're going to use them. Like maybe you'll say, okay, on Friday morning I'm going to do this. Saturday afternoon I'm going to do this. And so you have a plan, like my plan if I'm only going to check the comments once a day. The third state is to reintroduce technology. See if you fall back into the behaviors that are not good for you, and then you can decide if that removal is going to be permanent or if it's something you really can manage. Then he moves on to what he calls practices, and these are practices that will make your life better, will make it easier for you to really control and use your devices in a better way, because one of the reasons that we have trouble with checking is because we have fallen out of the habits of doing certain things that make our life more meaningful and better. And the first one he talks about is solitude. Solitude is about what's happening in your brain, not the environment around you. The subjective state in which your mind is free from input from other minds. Cal says solitude requires you to move past reacting to information created by other people and focus instead on your own thoughts and experiences wherever you happen to be. I don't have to lock myself in my room to have solitude. When you avoid solitude, you miss out on the positive things it brings you. The ability to clarify hard problems, to regulate your emotions, to build moral courage, and to strengthen relationships. If you suffer from chronic solitude deprivation, the quality of your life degrades. Another scientist, Brian Primick from University of Pittsburgh, found the more time you spend connecting on these services, the more isolated you become. We have evidence that replacing your real-world relationships with social media use is detrimental to your well-being. The heaviest social media users are more likely to be lonely and miserable. The key issue is that using social media heavily tends to take us away from socializing with real people in the real world. Using so much of this technology actually causes problems in our offline communications. For instance, people are talking on the phone, having real conversations less and less, and they're relying purely on text messages, which so often go awry and people misunderstand what people are saying. But when you actually talk to a person, whether it's on phone or in person, you can hear their vocal inflection, you can see their body language, and it's easier to just have the conversation go well, and you feel that real person-to-person connection. He talks about the difference between having connections and relationships. Connections are when we just meet someone digitally, but we truly don't know each other. Having a relationship with someone is when you're actually having conversations on the phone, going out and doing things with them. And he suggests that one of the things we need to do when we are trying to reduce our digital device use is to really have goals of setting up real get-togethers with people and call people on the phone, start filling in those holes that we are creating with all of digital devices. Another practice he says that we need to do is reclaim leisure. Doing things, having hobbies, doing crafts, reading books, going for walks, the kinds of things we used to do before digital devices. And when he's talking about crafts, yeah, of course, there's like the painting wood and knitting and everything, but he's talking about anytime you're making something or you're learning something. Maybe you're learning to work on your car. Maybe you're learning to make a bookshelf. Maybe you're learning to speak another language, although he says look for ways to do it if you can that are not digitally involved, because you're trying to get away from that and get yourself in the real world. Doing puzzles is a craft. Baking, just any kind of skill that you're learning or participating, could be considered a craft. We might tell ourselves there's no greater reward after a hard day at the office than to have an evening entirely devoid of plans or commitments. But we then find ourselves several hours of idle watching and screen tapping later, somehow more fatigued than when we began. As Bennett would tell you, if you instead rouse the motivation to spend that time actually doing something, even if it's hard, you'll likely end the night feeling better. Again, I really highly recommend this book because there's so much in it I couldn't possibly talk about it. YouTube knows you so much better than I do, feels that you're going to enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.